Hello and welcome to episode 29 of the Nonsensory Podcast. I'm your host, Joe, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, too busy drinking, Evan. We've recently partnered with the good people at Gaming Access Weekly, and you can find our podcast along with all the latest gaming news, editorials, and reviews at gamingaccessweekly.com. You can listen to us on audio form on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. If you'd like a little more visual stimulation, please head on over to our YouTube page, like and subscribe, and click the bell to receive notifications whenever we put out new content. You can find us on Twitter at Nonsensory1, on Facebook at Nonsensory Podcast, and please come join us for our weekly Tuesday stream at 7:30 p.m. I was off for a couple of weeks, but we will be getting back into RE2.
Yes, sir.
With Evan's commentary, which is a lot of fun, and I get scared a lot, so that's good.
It's the best part of my week.
Oh, it's fantastic. Finally, please support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/nonsensorypod. We have 4 tiers of membership ranging from $1 to $20 and perks ranging from getting to vote in polls to getting to read a personal greeting at the start of our show.
So I wanted to give a quick Patreon shout out to our first patron, Tyler C.
Woo woo!
Thanks for your sub, Tyler, and we hope you enjoy your subscription to all of the content. Check your email for a personalized thank you from Utch, which is a perk available at the $10 level and above.
Yeah, you're number one.
So
Yep,
one of many.
Yeah,
hopefully soon.
Yeah, you're the dude. Thank you so much. So it's going to be a long episode. What have you been up to, Evan?
So I got a promotion at work, which
Sweet.
was pretty awesome, and I've been working towards it for quite a while. So it's good to see all that work, actually end up, coming out to something good.
Right.
And I bought Metal Gear Solid 2, which is one of my favorite games of all time. You can go check out our favorite games of all time and one of our older episodes.
The GOAT episode.
The GOAT episode. Oh, yeah, the one with the GOAT. Thanks.
Yep.
I totally forgot. I was like, I don't know which one it is, but yeah. So I've been playing that a little bit, and it's really clunky and old, but I still love it a lot. And it runs really well in 4K because it's a PS2 game. So it looks really good for a PS2 game.
I wonder how that works.
So I've been playing that, and we just started to. We watched the last episode of The Boys, which is not the last episode of the season, but the last episode that came out. It's the second to last episode of the season, and that show is crazy, man.
Yeah,
it's like, it left us on a really big cliffhanger this week, and we were just like sitting around the TV, just like, what is happening? Like, how is this show going to end? Like, lots of questions.
Is there going to be a season 3, or is this?
I have no idea. Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, that's our producer Colin, by the way.
He gave us a thumbs up. There's going to be a season 3. Shout out to producer Colin. You are the man. Thank you, producer Colin. So can you give any more than that on the show? Or?
Yeah. So it's very violent. There's like bits of like horrible violence in pretty much every episode, and it's pretty crass, and there's lots of swearing. If you don't like the C word, I wouldn't watch it. But it's really cool. Like at the start of this episode, they kind of like had like a montage of somebody like getting like radicalized by the soups, and then going out and like committing violence against one of his like neighbors, basically like in his community, because of like their like super terrorists. Like they're trying to fight against super terrorists, and they like have like this whole online presence, and they're just like doing like basically like these big events where they just like talk about how we need to like save the world from like all these super terrorists, and then like one of the dudes just like gets obsessed with watching them, and then he ends up going out and like committing acts of violence in the name of
Oh, that's
all that
lovely.
stuff. And but it's like, it's like a good commentary on that kind of stuff about like how, you can get caught up in like the media and
Oh yeah,
all that stuff. And
for sure.
it's I don't know. It's such a fun take on superheroes, and like it's good to see like it's not like realistic in a sense of like people don't have like ridiculous superpowers or anything, but it's like realistic in like how they would act, still being like fallible humans. So.
I would say, yeah, it's from the little bit that I've seen, it's definitely more real world and like the depictions of what superpowered humans would be.
Yeah, for sure.
And what they'd be capable of and the effects of like the powers. I will say it's like hyper cynical.
Oh yeah,
it is so cynical.
It is like, yeah, if you definitely have to be like looking for that specific thing. I think, and it's really just about like the pull between like this hyper corporation that owns the soups and the boys who are trying to take them down.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it paints the soups in a very cynical light, but also like everybody is painted in a very cynical light.
Yeah.
Like even the good guys, nobody's. It's all gray area. Well, it's not really gray area. It's like it's all bad. So it's kind of like it's like a darker gray area almost.
It's a very black gray area.
Yeah, it's like they say like a black comedy. It's kind of like it's like there are moments in it that are genuinely hilarious, but it is like super dark.
I enjoyed the parts of the show that I've seen. I think it's a good show. I think overall it's not really my cup of tea, but I think it's pretty. If you're into superheroes and dark stuff, you'll probably love it.
Yeah, there's like I said, there's lots of just like random shock violence. Well, it's not like random violence, but like the violence that happens in the show is just like really just no holds bar whenever it happens. So like if you're squeamish and don't like that kind of stuff, I wouldn't watch it. But,
no, probably not.
What about you, Joe?
Well, not too much going on. My son's getting a little more vocal.
I'm gonna be so happy whenever you have that new internet for our Tuesday stream.
Oh yeah, so my cat's chewed through my Ethernet cord, and that's why I've been unable to stream. So I'm having to run a new cord, and so
that's the joy of little kittens, man.
Yeah. So part of the problem why it's taken so long is I was hunting for a cord that's a little more substantial.
Oh, cool.
Because they seem to not chew on thicker cords. So the thin little, the flat ones are like targets for them.
Yeah. I'm surprised Milo hasn't gotten at the one that I have on the ground here. I'm surprised.
Yeah. I don't know. My
ever
cats
since it happened
weird.
to you, I've been doing nothing but like freaking out about it. Right. Like every day I kind of wake up and like check.
They've chewed on everything. My surround sound speaker wires, your external hard drive power cord, my Ethernet cord, they destroyed my headphones. So I forgot when I do the stream I need a new set of headphones because they're gone. So thanks for reminding me. I need to pick one up in the next day here.
We'll take those ones. Just bring them back next time.
Yeah, temporarily I might have to do that. But in any case, James is definitely getting more vocal.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, he's telling us his opinion. And it's lovely, and it's also, it's not.
Right.
But you and I and Eileen.
The wives,
yeah, the wives, we went to watch Tenet.
Yeah. That was so that was like our first, and I'm sure many people have, if you've gone to the theater, that's like your first venture into theaters since everything kind of went down with
the beer
virus. Yeah. So yeah, we decided to go see Tenet at the really nice theater. By the way, that theater is beautiful.
Like, whoa.
Like
yeah.
There's like a nicer part of like a more upscale area of town that has like this really nice theater that we went to. It's got like the leather chairs and like they lean back and stuff.
They're like powered. and they recline, and they're quite wonderful.
Yeah,
they're very comfy.
I want to see movies like that all the time now.
The only problem with those is the old chairs they had in that theater. You could actually remove the thing in between the seats.
Yeah.
And so if you were a couple, you could actually sit close to one another.
Right.
But these ones, it's solid.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a bummer, but it was way comfy.
Yeah.
Like way more comfy. But
Beyond that,
before we actually talk about Tenet, you want to talk about what they did? Like how? Okay, so I'll just.
Yeah, you mean like the theater itself?
Yeah. When you go in, so I actually reserved our seats and everything, and what they did was they made it so that you pick the seats for your group, and they automatically block off 2 seats on either side of your group. And then the seats front to back are actually already more than 6 feet apart.
Mm-hmm.
You have tons of room between anybody. So if that's something you're worried about, worry no more.
Yeah.
Their policy on food, like masking, is you have to wear a mask unless you're eating or drinking.
Yeah.
While you're in the theater itself.
So our strategy was, let's get a big bucket of popcorn and then eat it through the whole thing so we don't really have to wear a mask all that often.
I mean, we still did wear our masks for a good portion.
Yeah.
But I will say it wasn't that uncomfortable. Like, once you get into the movie, you kind of forget about it, you know?
Well, and also there was like, one other couple there?
Yeah, there really wasn't that many people.
It was like us 4 and then like another group of maybe 4, like way at the top. So it's like we were nowhere even remotely close to being near anybody to.
But whenever you got to a point where like, okay, I'm realizing that my face has been covered this whole time, you just kind of take it off, take a couple, eat a handful or 2 of popcorn and then put it back on. I mean, it wasn't bad.
The nice thing is that theaters are kind of cool by default, so it was actually like kind of keeping my face warm.
Yeah, I will agree with that. Yeah.
So it felt kind of nice.
I mean, your beard wasn't taking care of that for you?
No. Well, I mean, at that point it was. Since I shaved, man, my face will not stop itching. And I'm pretty sure it's because of the mask. I don't know what it is. I think like maybe I might have washed my mask with something that's irritating my face, but it's pretty awful. But Tenet, the movie itself, I guess we'll get into our thoughts on that, which was like confused throughout.
Yes.
Like, like slowly picking things up, but still completely unsure of where they were going with the whole concept.
It took a while. And even once you realize what's going on, you're still like, what?
There was like a lot of like, the concept actually is very simple.
Yeah.
But like all of the talk about it in the movie made it confusing.
No, it's still pretty confusing because it's like you have 2 separate planes of time moving at once, and there are people who are moving backwards and people who are moving forwards, and while it's going on, it's like they're seeing results of things that have yet to happen.
Yeah.
And that's just it broke my brain a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely I liked the scenes where people were going, like, there will be action scenes where, at the end of the movie is the best example, really, where there's like a big action scene where it's playing out simultaneously from both sides, where there's a group moving in on a a location going forward and a group going backwards, basically, and all of it takes place at the same time. And they the people that are going backwards, like, we see them going forward, but they're actually going backwards in the universe of the movie. But their motion in the shot is still moving forward. So it's like, like a regular action scene. But from their perspective in the scene, they're seeing the other fight take place backwards.
Yep.
And they're trying,
it's
like a race against time, basically, at the end. And there's a lot of jumping around. It's like, it felt very James Bondish in this. James Bond-ish, not James Bondage. In a sense that they kept hopping locations, and there were there was some beautiful coastal shots and some yachts and stuff, and then they'd be in London or something,
yeah.
And then I think they were somewhere in India at some point, and it was very cool. It was the main character was James Bondish, but very chill and didn't say a whole lot.
I thought he was He was brilliant.
Yeah, the main actor I'd never seen in anything before, but I thought he did a great job.
It was so good. I will say, like, this, I think we all came away with the same take from this movie, and that's that I have newly found hope in the new Batman movies coming.
Yes, Robert Pattinson did a great job.
It was good.
Yeah, I was like we were talking about before, like going into it, you're like, oh, the Twilight guy, and you have like no idea if he's going to be terrible or not. But I think that he did a great job. And they wrote him a good character too. Like his character was like fun, you know, versus a lot of, not to say that the main character wasn't also fun, but a lot of the rest of the movie was pretty serious. So he was like the levity kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I like the relationship that he and the main character built. The main character's protagonist.
You felt a real connection there between the two.
Especially by the end of the movie.
Yeah. I think the movie overall is definitely well worth going to see. And like I think you got to see it in theaters.
Yeah, it was definitely a movie to see in theaters, which is why we went. But
yeah.
You know.
And it's one of those movies where there's so much happening that you have to watch it twice. Like, you're at least twice. That's probably one that I'm going to watch like 100 times.
Yeah, I'm actually super excited for whenever it like comes out on video and you know, on streaming, whatever. What did you think of the direction though? Because it is like a Christopher Nolan movie. So like, because we talked about like a lot of the backward shots and stuff. Some of them were really cool, like the scene in the hall, like when they're in that like high security, like it's like a place for like rich people to keep all their really expensive stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like breaking in or whatever, and they go through like this whole plan to get in there, and then they're in there, and then they come across like a guy that's on the ground, and then it starts going backwards, and they get into like this big backwards fight down a hallway. But then there were other shots like when they had like the ships and stuff and on the yachts, and there was like, you know, they'd pull back and they'd have like the Christopher Nolan like whoa thing, but it was just like a ship going backwards and stuff. And it was like, I felt like I was supposed to think it was cooler in that scenario than it really ended up feeling, you know, like, or like the car chase.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the car chase was a little underwhelming.
I thought that car chase was awesome.
You did? Okay.
It was
maybe
so
I was
cool.
just being hard on it, but like I guess I was just expecting more.
I thought it was rather silly though. They're like, let's bring all these giant cars along and like box this guy. It was silly.
It was also like hard to get a gauge on like when stuff would happen, because for the most part you're waiting for something. From somebody's perspective, time is still unfolding forward, but you're waiting for something to start happening backwards.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that would just happen from something that was like still. Like the guy that was on the ground, and then like you're just like, oh no, waiting around, and then he just like starts getting up and like stuff starts going backwards, and you're like, oh, here's the action. And it was the same thing with the car chase. Was like,
what was weird about what I will say is like the movie starts off like action, and then it just stays that way the whole time, and there's like they never really. It's so hard to follow. Like that scene in the opera house, I still don't understand what happened.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I was kind of expecting a scene like that because it's Christopher Nolan, and like he did that with the Joker scene in Dark Knight, and I'm pretty sure there's like a breaking into like a compound scene in Inception, and then they do like the whole Bane escaping the plane in the Dark Knight Rises and stuff. So like that's the thing, he just does that where he'll just have like some huge set piece action thing to start off his movies. So I knew that was coming, but yeah, I was like super lost.
Yeah, I didn't understand anything that happened in the scene. When you watched the whole way through, everything starts going back the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that is mysterious enough that you won't be able to follow if you haven't seen it yet. But everything starts going the other way, and you're waiting for it to get back to that, and it never goes there. And you're like, but what happened?
Yeah, I was a little confused by that too. Whenever they just like cut to they like cut to a train yard, and it's like a completely different thing, and I'm like, how did we get here?
Yeah, and they never do explain it.
No, they don't. But I would highly recommend it. For how confusing it was. It was still a fun ride that kept me like engaged the whole time. Mm-hmm. And then I would say about 3/4 of the way through, it was like, aha, okay, this is what's really going on. Mm. So it was like I was asking questions the whole time. It was still interesting. It was still fun to watch. And I am, like you said, I'm looking forward to going back and watching it again to see if I can piece it together a little more and get an idea of some of the little details that I might have missed.
I will say Austin Powers' dad shows up for like 5 seconds in the movie, and
Michael Caine.
Yeah.
Doesn't he play Austin Powers' dad? Michael Caine?
Yeah.
Yeah, he like shows up.
That's what Nigel Powers, isn't it? Nigel Powers.
I think it's Nigel Powers. But okay, I like Michael Caine, but his cameo was kind of weird to me because he was like eating in it. And it was kind of like he was talking like this with his mouth full the whole time. But I was like, "What's it?"
He played like the stereotypical like British snob.
Oh yeah,
rich guy thing, and he was like making fun of his like the whole scene was him making fun of the main character. He's like, "Your suit's cheap, your watch is cheap, you're cheap. You ordered this at your the whole thing."
I like that I think there were multiple points in which the protagonist orders something and then just like leaves without taking it.
I think it was meant to be a gag.
Yeah. It was real funny. He's like, "I'll have what he's having." And then like they come in and he like comes back with the food and he's just like, "Bye."
I think it's poking fun at other movies that do the same thing,
sure.
but unintentionally.
They do that in like James Bond and stuff where, like James Bond will meet with like the villain and they'll like share a drink or like sit down at a table and start like, talking smack at each other while also eating.
All right. I think it's time to move on. That was a pretty long intro, but it leads us into our movie and TV news roundup.
Yeah, lots of news. So we're going to go through.
If you wouldn't mind taking it away.
Yeah, we're going to go through real quick and just power through all the news items. And then at the end, we'll just do a little bit of a recap and reaction kind of thing. So the first thing that I'm pretty excited about because I love Jamie Foxx is that Jamie Foxx is set to return as Electro in Spider-Man 3. Gave Colin a little bit of a jump there. This is from Boris Kitt at The Hollywood Reporter. Jamie Foxx, who played classic Spidey villain Electro in the Andrew Garfield starring The Amazing Spider-Man 2, is in final talks to reprise the role for the latest Spider-Man installment, starring Tom Holland and being made by Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures. Foxx played Electro in 2014's The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which failed to impress critics and underperformed at the box office with a $708.9 million global box office. John Watts, the filmmaker behind Homecoming and last year's Spider-Man Far From Home, is in the director's chair for the third installment, which Sony has dated for December 17th, 2021. Carrying over an actor/character combo from a previous iteration of a superhero franchise might seem a bit odd, but Marvel's Spider-Man Far From Home brought back J.K. Simmons' J. Jonah Jameson from the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, so this isn't too far of a stretch. Fox tweeted, "Super excited to be part of the new Marvel Spider-Man installment, and I won't be blue in this one, but 1,000% badass." He later deleted the post.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things. Maybe he was just like not supposed to reveal that he's in it. Kind of thing.
Maybe. I mean, the cat's out of the bag at that point.
Yeah, at that point, the internet screenshots things way too fast.
Monster Honey. Monster Hunter movie release date backed up to December. Wesley LeBlanc at IGN is reporting. Monster Hunter, a movie based on the hit game from Capcom, was originally set to release in theaters in just a few months on September 4th, was then pushed back to April 23rd, 2021, and has now been moved back up to a December 2020 release date. Paul W.S. Anderson, the director of the many Resident Evil movies, is set to direct and is joined by Resident Evil cinematic alum Mila Jovovich. I could never say her name correctly.
We get to say it again.
Jovovich plays Natalie Artemis, the leader of a group of soldiers who gets transported from their world into that of the Monster Hunter video games. Jovovich's Artemis teams up with the Hunter, played by Tony Jaa.
Yeah,
What?
Dude, Tony Jaa.
What? And his boss is someone known as the Admiral. Admiral, a character played by Ron Perlman. What?
Yeah.
Dude,
I saw both of those names and got tremendously more excited for this movie than I was.
I had no care until I read Tony Jaa, but I've seen him in some stuff that's...
Yeah, but I still love Tony Jaa.
And then Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
And like that's like the stamp on that sucker.
Ron Perlman's the man. Okay,
Okay.
Netflix is making a CGI Resident Evil movie with Leon and Claire at the center. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. Netflix will stream a new CGI Resident Evil movie in 2021. That's according to a trailer posted on the platform's Portuguese Twitter account, seemingly ahead of an official announcement. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness features game protagonists Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield. The video confirms no other details have been revealed at the time of publishing. Infinite Darkness will seemingly be the second Resident Evil collaboration to appear on Netflix in the near future. Netflix announced a live-action series based on Resident Evil last month, developed by Constantin Film, which is also behind the Resident Evil movies. According to the platform synopsis, the show will feature the Wesker kids as they uncover secrets inside of New Raccoon City. Albert Wesker is one of the primary antagonists in the Resident Evil games. Quote, when the Wesker kids move to New Raccoon City, the secrets they uncover might just be the end of everything, it says. The plan is for the series to, quote, expand the Resident Evil universe and deepen the existing mythology, according to the series production company. Netflix has yet to share a release date for Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. However, the service has confirmed the series will be coming out in 2021.
Fast 9 release date pushed back to May 2021. This is by Jonathan Dornbush at IGN. That Dornbush. It just keeps growing.
Trim that dorn bush.
Universal Pictures has once again delayed the theatrical release of Fast 9, but this time not as dramatically as they did back in March. Fast 9 will now open May 28th, 2021, which is Memorial Day weekend in the United States. F9 was previously slated to open April 2nd, 2021, after being delayed to that date from its original May 22nd, 2020 slot.
The next Bond film, No Time to Die, has been delayed to April 2021. This is from Rebecca Rubin at Variety. No Time to Die, the latest James Bond installment, will be postponed until next year, the filmmakers announced Friday. The film, starring Daniel Craig, is in his final stint as the agent formerly known as 007, is expected to hit theaters April 2nd, 2021, a year later than initially planned. After its first delay, the movie was set to premiere in the UK on November 12th and in North America on November 20th. Quote, MGM, Universal, and Bond producers Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli today announced the release of... Is that fake? Is that real?
That's a...
broccoli and cheese. Today announced the release of No Time to Die, the 25th film in the James Bond series. Will be delayed until 2 April in order to be seen by a worldwide theatrical audience. The filmmakers said in a statement, quote, we understand the delay will be disappointing to our fans, but we now look forward to sharing No Time to Die next year. No Time to Die carries a production budget over $200 million and costs millions more to promote. The studio reportedly lost millions when it shelved the movie earlier in 2020. Cary Joe Fukunaga directed No Time to Die, with Rami Malek set as Bond's adversary Safin, Leah Seydoux returning as Bond's love interest, and Lashana Lynch playing the new 00 agent. The cast also includes Ana de Armas, Ben Whishaw, and Christoph Waltz.
So do you think the G in Michael G. Wilson stands for Gorgonzola? A Dr. Seuss Cinematic Universe pukes more onto the everything must be a cinematic universe now pile.
Oh yeah, that was me.
That was a
That's my
interesting intro. Now this name, Anthony Breznican,
I think you got it.
At Vanity Fair. A trio of films based on the storybooks of Dr. Seuss is on its way to theaters as part of an expansive filmmaking deal with Warner Animation Group, and one of them will be the first ever adaptation of the Oh, the Places You'll Go. The 1990 book about a kid who seeks a lifetime of adventure was the final Theodore Geisel story?
That's the actual name of Dr. Seuss.
Oh. I knew that, but it was like back in the back of, you know, how, anyway, to be published in the author's lifetime and will be the first animation project for J.J. Abrams, who signed on to produce the feature film alongside Hannah Minghella, head of motion pictures at Bad Robot. I like both of those. The two other films in the lineup are a new animated version of The Cat in the Hat and a subsequent spin-off about the story's twin mischief makers, Thing 1 and Thing 2. The three movies are designed to be the start of a Seuss universe, according to the team putting together the projects. This new long-term partnership with Warner Brothers is aimed at creating a steady stream of new Seuss projects for the screen, said Susan Brandt, president of Dr. Seuss Enterprises. Wow, Dr. Seuss Enterprises. Wow. For the first time, we're not just doing one film for one book. We're going to franchise build beyond the initial story of these books and find out what happens next, she said. I call it stretching the fabric. How far can it go? To go a little bit deeper with our characters. First up will be The Cat in the Hat, planned for 2024, which has now signed directors Erica Rivenoa, best known as a writer-producer on South Park, and Art Hernandez, a veteran Disney story artist who worked on Planes and the Tinkerbell movies. In 2026, another team will put together the tentatively titled Thing 1 and Thing 2 movie, which will focus on two characters introduced by the Cat in the Hat. From there, Oh, the Places You'll Go will hit screens in 2027 and will be more of a standalone story.
Stephen King's The Strand
Nope. The Stand.
The Stand. Stephen King's The Stand gets a CBS All Access limited series starring Alexander Skarsgård. This is from Matt Fowler at IGN. To celebrate the 42nd anniversary, to celebrate the 42nd anniversary of Stephen King's landmark novel, The Stand, which terrified unsuspecting readers when it landed back in 1978, CBS All Access dropped a quick new teaser on social media to hype its upcoming 9-part adaptation of the book starring James Marsden, Greg Kinnear, Whoopi Goldberg, Amber Heard, Ezra Miller, Heather Graham, and Alexander Skarsgård. From the New Mutants' Josh Boone, The Stand is a supernatural epic that takes place in a dystopian future where 98% of humanity has been decimated by a plague, and the remainders are embroiled in an elemental struggle between good and evil. The fate of mankind rests on the frail shoulders of the 108-year-old mother, Abigail, who is played by Whoopi Goldberg, and a handful of survivors. Skarsgård, seen in the tease here, plays famous King villain Randall Flagg, a.k.a. the Dark Man, a demonic figure who's been featured in 9 of King's books, including the Dark Tower series. The first episode of The Stand will debut Thursday, December 17th on CBS All Access. New episodes will continue to air weekly every Thursday, including a brand new finale storyline written by King himself.
Netflix greenlights Jeffrey Dahmer series from Ryan Murphy. Matt Fowler at IGN writes, after landing an unprecedented 5-year deal with Netflix worth $300 million, Glee and American horror crime story creator Ryan Murphy has his next Netflix series in sight. The story of serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. After making The Politician, Hollywood and Am I reading? This sentence is weird. After making The Politician, Hollywood and Ratchet?
Ratchet is the... So they're doing Netflix is doing like a series about Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, you did tell me about that. Okay. For Netflix, Murphy and co-creator Ian Brennan will usher in a limited series called Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Per Deadline, Richard Jenkins, The Shape of Water, has already been cast as Dahmer's father, Lionel, a chemist who showed Dahmer how to safely bleach and preserve animal bones when he was a child. The 10-episode limited series will span the 1960s, 70s, and 80s and end with Dahmer's arrest in the early 90s, while also dramatizing at least 10 instances where Dahmer was almost apprehended but ultimately let go. Casting is currently underway for Dahmer himself, as well as Glenda Cleveland, a neighbor of Dahmer's who repeatedly tried to warn law enforcement of his erratic behavior to no avail. Production for Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, will start in January.
There's going to be a Batman podcast. Spotify, Warner Brothers, and DC announced that film and television writer / producer / director David S. Goyer, Batman Begins, has originated the story and will shepherd and executive produce Batman Unburied, the first series from a slate of original scripted narrative podcasts as part of the company's multi-year partnership. The audio streaming subscription service Spotify will serve as the exclusive platform for Batman Unburied, which will be developed and produced by Goyer's Phantom 4 production company in association with Warner Brothers' Blue Ribbon Content. While the Media Power trio isn't revealing too many details early on, they say Batman Unburied will explore, quote, the darker aspects of Bruce Wayne's psychology. Quote, I've been a fan of narrative podcasts for some time and was looking for the right story. Returning to Batman seems like the perfect opportunity, says Goyer in an announcement. We'll be using the unique advantages of audio to dig into the more nightmarish members of the Dark Knight's Rogues Gallery. The series is expected to debut on Spotify in 2021. So that's everything for our TV/movie news. So let's just go back through in reverse order. How does that sound? How do you feel about the Batman podcast?
Well, maybe we don't have to touch on everything. Maybe just whatever. Yeah, because that's a lot. And we're kind of already running long. I just think that's the thing I'm most excited about. Out of all of those, the thing that's got me the most hype is the... I don't know about you. Mm-hmm. Actually, I do know, but I'll let you speak for yourself. For me, most of my consuming of any kind of media is audio now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because time constraint, I can listen at work, and so and I can listen in the car. I hardly get to watch TV or actually play games or anything like that. So like, I can listen to stuff, and this, like, I've always loved narrative podcasts, and so this has me very excited. You know, as something I can, I can binge. And
yeah, I'm not huge into narrative podcasts, but I do enjoy. At least I've listened to. I'll give a quick shout out to We're Alive, which is a zombie survival podcast that my wife introduced me to, and I think you told her about it, Colin. Somebody did. Have you listened to it though? Okay. Either way, it's really good, and we listened to it previously, but we never finished it, and so we were listening to it on our way back from a wedding, and I really enjoy that. So I'm, open to a Batman one. And yeah, podcasting and like really just like listening to YouTube videos or whatever has really just replaced my kind of music stuff, especially like in the car, where before I would just like blast music, and now I'm just kind of like, it's like talk radio for me. I used to listen to talk radio in the 90s a lot, because my dad would when we were driving around. So I'm I kind of enjoy it. So, and we do a podcast. I mean, like, I like to listen to people talk. So
yeah,
I'd be interested. Like we were talking about before the show, we were like, where do you think they'll go with it? And I'm hoping that they go with like the setting of like the animated series, where it was more, there were supervillains in it, but it was pretty grounded.
Yeah.
Like the gangsters were also a threat to Batman and stuff like that. And I hope that they go through like, maybe they start with more like crime families in Gotham or something like that, and kind of take like a noir kind of flair with it.
I hope they like embrace the old timey radio type feel with it, because I don't know. There's the narrative podcast already like has that aesthetic, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I would love it if they like had the scraggly old record kind of. I think it would feel pretty good.
Yeah. How you feeling there, Bruce? Like everybody kind of talks like this.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but
look out! It's the Batman.
Is there anything else in there that you think you're excited about?
I'm excited to see the CGI Resident Evil thing, but I don't have hope that it's going to be good. Because like most Resident Evil stuff outside of the games has been pretty meh. Like the films, which also gives me pause about the Monster Hunter film, which like,
yeah,
like I've never liked the Resident Evil films. I feel like they're pretty crap.
Oh, they absolutely are. Are just awful. I mean, the Monster Hunter one, it's the names in it that make me go, ooh,
yeah,
but.
I can watch Ron Perlman chew up a screen for a while, like he's just entertaining to watch no matter what he does. So like I'd be interested in it.
Yeah. And I mean, Tony Jaa, I mean, hopefully they'll take advantage of his like martial arts.
Well, he's supposed to be the hunter, and like having played, and I don't know the budget for the movie or anything, but having played Monster Hunter, there's a lot of like verticality and like a bunch of like cool moves that the characters do in the game. So I'm hoping that they translate that over to where he's just like some crazy kung fu jungle man.
Yeah. The whole concept of the movie sounds awful though. It really just It just sounds like
Yeah,
garbage.
it sounds like them trying, like, you remember the early video game movies, right? Where it would always be like the Marines, like that was one thing that I hated about the first Transformers movies and stuff, is they like incorporated the Marines into it and all that crap instead of just like having it be a Transformers movie.
Right.
And so now it's like, oh yeah, Jovovich is just a Marine and she gets transported to this crazy monster hunter place.
Like very Jumanji.
Yeah, and it's like, what? Like, at the end of the movie, I will not be surprised if, like, tanks start rolling into the world of Monster Hunter trying to take out monsters. And it becomes like, we actually have to save this world, you know?
I think the Resident Evil thing, you know, what is it supposed to be, a series? No, a movie. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it has a chance at being okay. I think they should have just made it a show. It sounds more like it could.
Yeah, I think it would be a great show. For sure. I just, you know, like the new Resident Evil game.
Speak. What?
I'm just thinking about Dr. Seussiverse.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? Let's talk about the Seussiverse.
How do you feel about Dr. Seuss? Producer Colin.
You like the books.
I love the books.
I mean, everybody
Yeah.
likes the books.
I just don't know how it's going to translate into a universe.
Yeah, I feel like she's talking about stretching the fabric of the stories. I don't like the way that sounds.
It's one of those things where, like, and I know I'm biased here because of, like, I grew up with these books. Like, they're kind of like a cherished thing. Like, I love Dr. Seuss as, like...
Don't mess with my Seuss.
I think he's very, like, his work is very important and, like, kind of stands on its own. And, like, reading this, I just kind of, like, thought back, like, maybe Dr. Seuss isn't as cynical as I would be, and he'd be fine about, like, having, like, big corporations taking his work and, like, making, like, big series out of it and stuff, because it reaches more people or whatever. But, like, to me, the language that they're using about, like, we need to, like, we can make a whole bunch of stuff out of this, and it's just all I can see is them seeing dollar signs.
Yeah, and they're talking about that I got to go back to it again, stretching the fabric to see where you can take it beyond what he already wrote. I don't like the way that sounds.
The part about stretching the fabric is like, well, but what if the fabric fits comfortably? And, you know, it's just like, maybe we don't need to. Maybe this is just fine how it is.
The only other thing I have to say about the movie news is the delay for No Time to Die is kind of sad because that looked awesome.
I feel like that's all the movie news that we've gotten in the last like 6 months is just like, here's a movie delay, here's a movie delay, here's a movie delay. That's all we're gonna get.
Yeah. Even the ones that are like we're bumping it up is because they delayed it already, and it's like we're moving it up 2 more days. Like, oh
yeah,
yay!
I worry, man, because like we went to see Tenet, there was nobody there, and it like totally underperformed at the box office. Which, yeah,
but I don't think that's like it's a good movie. Just people are still a little.
Oh no, it's totally not about the quality of the movie. I just think that like where we're at right now, people are just still not going to see movies, and it sucks because like I want to see Bond, but like what if the studio just keeps pushing it back because nobody keeps going? You know,
I don't think we're seeing the end of movie theaters, but it's not looking too great.
So, oh, you were not all about that Jeffrey Dahmer thing, by the way, were you?
No, like it doesn't sound great. I wish they would make it more of a documentary style thing. I mean, I know that's a story that's been documented to death, but like, so like what I did there. Yeah.
I liked. Who was? It was Ted Bundy. They did a show about Ted Bundy. I liked it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was the name of it?
It was like
it was like a longer name.
Wicked and something horrible, something like that.
But
I saw this.
It was with Zac Efron as Ted Bundy, and that was really good. Like I went into it like, okay, I don't like Zac Efron because I'm just a douche. Like it's the same thing as with Robert Pattinson, where it's like he's in these kiddie high school movies, and now he's like a real actor.
Extremely wicked, shockingly evil and vile.
There you go.
Extremely wicked, shockingly violent, and evil. Evil and vile. Okay. Yeah.
So
I saw it, but I was aware of it, but I have not watched it. So
I was excited when I saw that because I was like, oh, I really like the Ted Bundy thing. But then I also saw that it was like with Ryan Murphy and like the dude that makes like American Horror Story and stuff, and I was just like,
Okay, so Al Bundy from Married with Children. When I was little and I first started hearing about Ted Bundy and killing all these people, I'm like, the guy who sells shoes?
is he killing them with shoes? He's like, oh, really off topic. But since we got like this crossover thing with Ted Bundy and Ed Bundy,
Ted and Al
Bundy, and killing people with shoes, did you know that because you're a fan of Austin Powers?
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy that played the
guy who throws shoes?
The guy that throws shoes, yeah. What was his name? It was like Random Act or something like that. So,
yeah, I don't remember.
I watched a thing where he was actually convicted of like murder.
What?
Yeah, he killed a woman.
Dude.
Yeah, well, and other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
But, like, it wasn't Odd Job. It was like
I think it's Random Act.
I think it is like Random Act. And
thank you, producer Paul. You're like saving the day all over the place.
But yeah, he like committed murder and stuff, and they have like footage of him being questioned and stuff. Random task.
Okay.
Odd Job. Like it sucks that now whenever I think of that movie, I'm gonna think of that guy.
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess then he fits the evil villain thing kind of well. I mean, he already did look pretty scary. So.
Well, the weird thing, like, I was watching the interview that they had with the guy, right? And they bring up, like, they go through this whole series of events, and you kind of just, like, see him just kind of, like, oh. Like, whenever they're like, so this night you met up with this person, and, like, we know. And he was just like, and then you're just like, wow, you know? Oh, man.
Okay. Shall we get into the game news?
In brighter news compared to that, but still slightly bad news, we're going to get into the game news with WoW Shadowlands being delayed. This is from Cash Marshall at Polygon. World of Warcraft's next expansion, Shadowlands, has been delayed from October 27th to later this year. An exact date is not yet known. In a post on the official Blizzard website, executive producer John Haidt wrote the following. Quote, over the past several months of testing, we've made significant progress iterating on and polishing the core features and gameplay of Shadowlands. We're at a point where the zones, the campaign, the level up questing experience, and the story we have to tell are essentially ready to share. Wow, I'm sorry. However, as everyone started coming together and we've been listening to and building upon your feedback, it's become clear we need a little more time for additional polish and to balance and iterate on some interlocking pieces, particularly those related to the endgame. World of Warcraft players have had some criticism about the aspects of endgame progression in Shadowlands, including the Covenants. Players have to choose one of 4 powerful factions who live in the Shadowlands and ally with them for special in-game items and cosmetics. Players are worried that their various abilities, which include both universal bonuses and class-specific tools, will force certain characters to choose certain Covenants. Blizzard has already been testing solutions to this on their test servers, including the ability to switch factions, but it has remained a point of contention throughout the beta. A delay will allow Blizzard to address this feedback, as well as polish systems like Torghast, the endlessly repeatable Tower of the Damned.
EA teases Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remaster. This is by Dom Pepiat at VG247. After months of rumors, EA is teasing an announcement for October 5th that appears to be related to Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. Over the past few months, there have been multiple hints about the existence of Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. Not only have we seen a Switch listing for the unannounced title appear on Amazon, we've also seen a report suggesting the game will be made available on PC and consoles at some point. Well, EA could be set to finally announce the existence of the game. Need for Speed's Twitter account has been tweeting out suspicious messages that appear to be hinting at the game. Tweets including nods to Big Joe's Pizzeria, cop cars, and the number 510, which is the police call code for street racing. If that's not enough for you, we've also seen a page appear on Need for Speed's official website that has a countdown that expires on October 5th, 2020 at 8 a.m. Pacific time. 11 a.m. Eastern Time and 4 p.m. Best Time.
That's the best one. Ubisoft implementing big changes to improve its Battle Royale Hyper Scape just 3 months after launch. This is from Matt Wills at Eurogamer. Hyper Scape, Ubisoft's reasonably entertaining entry in the already well-represented free-to-play Battle Royale genre, has only been out 3 months, but already the publisher is looking to overhaul the experience in order to reach its full potential. Writing in a new blog post on the Hyperscape website, Ubisoft explained that while it considered the game's open beta and launch on PC a success, quote, "We are not able to achieve the high expectations we set for ourselves with our full release on console." Ubisoft says that in order for the game to reach its full potential, it has identified 5 key pillars Hyperscape's team will now focus on so it can become an experience, quote, "everyone can play and enjoy." These areas cover combat comfort, onboarding, game modes, player goals, and crossplay, with the broad aim being to get more people playing Hyperscape and to find ways to ensure they continue playing for longer. On combat comfort, Ubisoft says that while it wanted a high skill ceiling for Hyperscape, its data shows the floor is also too high, and it's simply too hard to aim, track, consistently damage, and eliminate players, especially on console, making for a difficult experience for a new player. That's further compounded by an onboarding process that does not currently provide enough time and opportunities for new players to learn and succeed. As such, Ubisoft wants to protect newcomers and provide training activities to help them become more proficient at the game, and plans to add new activities and match size options alongside the currently unforgiving Crown Rush, including a respawn system and deathmatch style game modes. It's also rethinking limited time modes given the player base split they create, and will be introducing crossplay earlier than originally planned to help bolster current issues surrounding lobby sizes. Finally, Ubisoft says Hyperscape currently lacks medium and long-term goals, meaning there's less incentive for players to stick around. This will be addressed at least in part by the new player ranking system in Hyperscape's upcoming Season 2, although it says additional progression systems and match-to-match flow improvements will be implemented as well. To help achieve its aims, Ubisoft says it will be restructuring the Hyperscape team into cell-based format used for Rainbow Six Siege's development, another game which struggled to gain traction at launch, with each cell focusing on one of its 5 areas of concern. Work has already begun on addressing these pillars, says Ubisoft, and it hopes to release more frequent updates in Season 2 compared to Season 1 as a result. Hyperscape's second season launches on PC, Xbox One, and PS4 next Tuesday, 6th October.
Retailers suggesting not all PS5 pre-orders will be filled by launch. This is by Tom Ivan at VGC. Multiple video game retailers have begun contacting consumers who have pre-ordered the PS5, saying their orders will not be fulfilled by the PS5 launch date. UK retailer Shop2 has begun contacting PlayStation 5 pre-order customers to tell them whether they will receive their console in time for launch. The retailer ran a system which essentially let customers pre-order a PS5 console by registering their interest prior to pre-orders going live. Once PS5 pre-orders officially launched on September 17th, customers were given a short window to confirm if they wanted to keep their pre-order. And the retailer has now started informing customers whether it will be able to deliver their console in time for launch. Quote, "We have received the allocation details from Sony, and unfortunately we regret to inform you that we will not be able to fulfill your pre-order on day 1/release date," reads a Shop2 email sent to a VGC staff member on Monday. If you ordered a console from Shop2 and have yet to receive an update via email, it might be worth checking the status on the pre-order section of your Shop2 account, as these are also being updated. Shop2 asks customers not expecting to receive their console in time for launch to keep their pre-order with the retailer in case other customers cancel their pre-orders or Sony makes additional launch day stock available. Quote, "Also, we would like to know if you would be happy to swap your pre-order for a digital console. If they become available as you are in the queue, you will have the priority," its email adds. Ireland's GameStop chain has contacted some PS5 pre-order customers to tell them not to expect their consoles to arrive before 2021. Sorry. Multiple
Try again.
Multiple VGC readers have received notice from their retailer claiming that it recently received confirmation that it won't be able to fulfill your pre-order until 2021. The message claims that the delay is due to circumstances out of our control and offers the option to remain in the pre-order queue or cancel entirely.
These are the games coming to and leaving Game Pass in September/October. Xbox Game Pass games coming to consoles in September, October include Destiny 2 expansions Forsaken, Shadowkeep, will be added on September 22nd, Night in the Woods, which was added on September 24th, Warhammer Vermintide on September 24th, Doom Eternal, which was just added on October 1st, Brutal Legend on October 8th, Forza Motorsport 7 on October 8th, and Eichenfell added on October 8th. Xbox Game Pass games leaving consoles in September, October are NBA 2K20, Red Dead Redemption 2, Goner Blueberry Edition, Jump Force, Bad North, Dirt Rally 2.0, Dishonored 2, Panzer Dragoon Orta, Westerado Double-Barreled, Yooka-Laylee, Felix the Reaper, Metro 23 Redux, and Minute. So the only ones that haven't left yet are Felix the Reaper, Metro 2033 Redux, Felix the Reaper, Metro 2033 Redux, and Minute, which are all leaving on October 15th. So if you currently have Game Pass and are enjoying those games or want to check them out before they leave, you have until October 15th.
That makes me sad because I didn't even know Red Dead Redemption 2 was that was on there. I would have been playing that.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know either, but I wasn't really looking because I have it.
Right.
But speaking of, if you want to play it,
it's already gone.
Well, I know, but I can.
Oh, right. Totally bummed.
But yeah, that was one of the bigger ones, and was actually one of the bigger gets that they had for people wanting to sign up. It was like, well, Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the biggest games of last year, or 2 years ago. So with that, I thought we could just finish on kind of like our final thoughts on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, because we've been talking about it like consistently over the last 6 months, because news trickled out and then news broke, and now we know all the games that are coming out and the prices and the release dates and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I think it's good for us to just move on from it.
Okay. Well, before we put an end to that, was there anything you wanted to touch on a little more? The
PS5 pre-order thing. I think that this is like, people should be concerned more for the GameStop news. Because like, if you were taking part in pre-orders, you're dumb. Because like we talked about that before, whenever they started to open, people were reporting on pre-orders opening way back in the day. And we said at the time, like, look, why would you pre-order a thing where you don't even know when it's coming out?
Yeah. And you don't know what you're going to have to pay for it.
And the nature of trying to pre-order something means that the retailer doesn't know how much they're going to have either.
At the time that they opened these pre-orders up, we didn't know specific stats yet either. There was still things up in the air about like memory and or storage rather.
You were paying for like your imaginary potential of the box, basically, at that point.
Which is just silly.
So what looks to be happening there is that they sold pre-orders not knowing how many they were going to have, and now it's coming back. Now they know how many they're going to have, and there's only X number of people that are going to get them. So it's basically like, you can either cancel your stuff or you can stay on and just like wait in the queue for your chance to get one.
On the other hand, this is like major incentive for Sony that they're seeing this demand.
Right. Oh, they know. And I think they had to have known going into it, like, people are going to buy this for sure.
I think there were a lot of people who were wondering, with the state of the world, what the demand was really going to be.
That's true. I think that Sony is really just limited by their capability to produce them at this point, because
which
they're going to sell a ton.
I have a little bit of understanding of like what's going on, at least like from an automotive perspective, because like you wouldn't believe how difficult it is to get parts right now. Like some things is pretty simple, like brake pads and things like that. I just did it.
It's fine.
It drives me nuts. Brake pads and things like that are pretty simple. Brake rotors. But like if you need electronic parts and things like that, you can wait a very long time, and it's actually starting to get worse and worse.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, because when we covered the whole fiasco with their pre-orders, we talked about how a bunch of companies opened up pre-orders early.
Right.
So at that point, did they know how many they were going to get?
I think what I'm saying is like supply chain constraints just for them to build it
Yeah.
are real.
Oh yeah.
Like
for
there
sure.
for a while, I was like, how much of this is just them trying to, Nintendo it up? And I'm trying to say, like, I don't think that's the case. I think there's a lot of genuine constraint, on their part.
Well, right. But what I was getting at with that is that like is the constraint we don't have any idea how big the constraint is versus like how much was overpromised by the retailers versus how much they're actually able to produce.
Right. I think, if you're a retailer, you're trying to make some money, you're probably leaning towards the higher end of your expectations.
Yeah.
And
there was a good point that was made on, we'll shout out Sacred Symbols because I listened to it this week.
yeah,
But
it's been a while since I've listened.
But they made a good point that like you're going to have a tough time getting a digital edition, and they think that it's kind of by design because at launch you're going to be selling a bunch of these in retailers, and what retailers want to put on their shelves is a thing where you're going to have to come back to them.
Right.
So they want you to buy a thing with a disc drive so that you come back and buy games there, or potentially buy games at the point of purchase.
There's way less incentive for them to want to sell you something that eliminates them from the process.
Right, exactly. So I think that, like, for me, the big appeal was that I could get a PS5 for $100 cheaper than a Series X. But if none of them are going to be available, then I don't really know, because $100 isn't that much for a bunch of people. For me, it is. Like, I'm not gonna.
That's a huge deal for me.
$500 is a decent amount.
I'm already having to lean towards getting a Series X for money, for financial constraints. Let alone $100 up front, like extra. So, it sucks, but that is where I'm leaning at this point.
So, we did play the Hyper Scape beta, and I just wanted to say that coming away from Hyper Scape, a lot of the problems that I had.
Was that one that we actually streamed? That we did? Yeah. So I will actually, after this episode, I think I'll re-upload that so you can check it out if you'd like. Once I get home and everything, get my internet hooked back up, I will put this back up, and I'll even put it on our YouTube. Because the game was not great. You just don't see people, and then when you finally do, you're dead. It's
the thing that was interesting for me from the article is that they said that they were going to do like a Rainbow Six Siege approach and change, like they identified the issues that they're having, and they're going to do like a Rainbow Six Siege thing, which is good because Ubisoft is famously turned around Rainbow Six Siege to be like one of the biggest esports games in the world right now after it was like received terribly at launch and it was awful. So like if they can apply the same craftsmanship to fixing Hyper Scape, then maybe it'll turn into something good. But yeah, a lot of what they're pointing out here is a lot of stuff that I had issues with.
Siege got huge. It's still a big deal, and hopefully that'll fix the problem, because I thought it had potential.
Yeah, I really like the movement in it.
There's a lot to like about it.
Yeah, but it, like they were saying, like it was just, we'd get into it. First, it wasn't very populated in the beta, and then when we'd get into a fight after waiting like the entire match, it would just be like a mess, and we couldn't like shoot things, and we would hit things and not know why they weren't dying and stuff like that. And so
on top of that, it was I thought the armament, like your choice of weapons, was really limited.
Yeah,
some of the guns that seemed pretty cool were actually severely underpowered.
Yeah,
I thought it was really cool. What their system for upgrading your weapons and your abilities was really neat.
Yeah, that was really fun, and it was like super streamlined.
Yeah, it was very cool. You just pick up as you pick up more guns, it like levels it up, and
and that gave you more incentive to like keep looting.
Yeah,
because you never just like. It wasn't like a PUBG where you'd just like drop into a map and then you'd find like a sniper rifle and a scope right off the bat or whatever, and you just like had no need to loot for weapons after that.
I mean, you could get a good gun to start with. but then you can keep making it better. I mean, I
Right.
thought that was so. The more assault rifles you pick up, your assault rifle gets more powerful, holds more ammunition, whatever. I thought it was pretty cool. So that one, hopefully they'll do something with it because I might come back. It was actually kind of fun.
Colin, Shadowlands got delayed, and you've been playing retail. How does that make you feel?
I still haven't decided if I'm buying Shadowlands yet,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I've heard about the beta for Shadowlands, the Covenant system definitely does need a little bit more work because it's underpowered for some people, overpowered for some. So like,
Mm-hmm.
if they're addressing it, then yeah, I'm okay with them delaying it.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Producer Colin's like on it today.
I love it.
He's helping us big time.
So I guess we'll go back and finish with our final thoughts on PS5 and Series X. What do you think about the Bethesda thing with Microsoft buying Bethesda?
That is massive.
Okay.
That is a huge move. Way out of the like. Did you have any clue that this was coming?
No.
Yeah. It was like out of the blue.
Not at all. Yeah. What do you the big question off of that purchase has been like, what happens to Bethesda games on PlayStation consoles? Do we keep getting them? Are they going to be exclusive? You know, stuff like that.
I think it would be pretty silly for them to not remain for them to not be exclusive. That's a huge power move for Microsoft coming at a time when, I mean, like I've said a million times, like Sony has the exclusives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're Microsoft and you don't cut them off, that's a huge tactical error.
All right, hear me out on this. Because I think that what Microsoft has been doing this entire time really leads to them not doing that and not keeping them exclusive, because they've been pushing Game Pass. They don't care if you play on PC or Xbox.
I think I already see where you're getting at.
They did the deal with EA to add their games to Game Pass, and now they'll have Bethesda's games, including all of the studios that they own, like id and Avalanche and the people that make Dishonored and stuff like that.
You think they just want a cut of that money?
Exactly. Well, okay. I think that maybe some of the smaller franchises will remain exclusive, but I think that a franchise like Fallout or The Elder Scrolls, which sells so much, it would be silly of them to lose those sales. And what they're doing with Game Pass is that's their platform, not the Xbox Series X. Their platform is Game Pass. And I think that they're going to say, you know, if you don't want Game Pass and you don't want to be upset and have to buy an Xbox or whatever, if you really don't want to, we'll still sell 30 million copies of The Elder Scrolls across both sets of consoles. We'll still make money off of the PlayStation stuff.
Right.
But the best place, the cheapest, most affordable place for you to play it will be on Xbox, because you can just pay $15 and instead of paying $70 to play it on PlayStation 5. So it's just another one of those things where it's really just continuously adding value to Game Pass and saying, like, you know, we're not going to upset the people that are fans of these franchises that are now closed off to it, because if we made an exclusive,
yeah, I mean,
but we can, so they can still make money off of the physical sales on their console and the other console, but you'll probably have way more people interested in actually just signing up for Game Pass and giving the money repeatedly every month because it's just cheaper there.
That's huge. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
And so the other thing was, like, we were talking about how the storage is different. And
Oh yeah. Yep.
so it came out that, you know, the Xbox extra hard drive is going to be like $220
Yep.
for another terabit. And then we were talking about earlier today how that terabit that's in the original Xbox One or Xbox Series X is now actually only like 800 gigabytes after you install the OS and stuff. So it actually has less than the PS5, but Microsoft has just marketed it as a terabit. So everybody's still just talking about it like, well, Microsoft has more storage in their machine and stuff. But also, like, comparatively, if you want to do expansion in the PS5 for your storage, it's going to be like more complicated and just as expensive, if not more. So, I mean, that whole situation's kind of a mess. Like, going into it, buying another console, I kind of don't like the looming cost there, you know, of like, if you use up a terabit, here's $200 more. Like, that's a lot. That's more than like any accessory ever.
We were talking about this earlier. Woo. And it doesn't make sense to me why we're already talking about having multiple SKUs. Digital, non-digital. Xbox has their real trimmed down technologically, Series S and everything. Why you don't offer an expanded storage PS5 or Xbox Series X where you can have 2, 3, 4 gigabytes and have that extra cost tacked on. You already have, here's your cheaper option to get you in the door, but we know storage is going to be a concern. If you have $800, here's your other thing.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Especially with like the fact that they're doing that whole financing thing too, right?
Right.
Is like, if you're really that worried about offering something that's that much more expensive, then what we're talking about, the difference between like $200 between the Series X and the Series S, equating to about $10 extra a month. So like, what if they just offered a 2 terabit version for $45 a month for the people that really don't want to spend 8, you know?
Yeah.
But it's still out there for people that really do have that money and don't care and will spend $800, you know,
Yeah.
which is still, you know, there's still people out there that'll do that. But
I mean, now we're talking about having extra accessories plugged into your system just to play. I mean, that's really frustrating to me. Like, I have on my PS4, I have a 4 terabit external hard drive plugged in mine, which is unnecessary for me. I definitely don't have it filled out, but you have this thing that's constantly hanging off your system. And like with a hard drive, you have to worry about like bumping it, or like if you pull it out while it's running and stuff like that, like and then it's just cumbersome. You know what I mean? It's not aesthetically pleasing in any way.
yeah, there's no, what we're saying is, I don't think there's no reason that they couldn't also announce this later, you know, where they say, okay, well, you know, maybe next year or 2 years down the line, they announce like a larger storage option.
I think we're going to get the PS5 Pro.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, for sure.
But I think that it's worse. The situation is worse again for PlayStation though, because you have to open the thing up.
Yeah.
And you have to like figure out which storage device works with your console, versus like Xbox, where they're like, well, there's one. Here's the thing. You plug it into the back, you know. So it's a way simpler thing on Xbox.
I think what we're going to end up seeing is a PS5 Pro X, just to make things more confusing.
It sounds like the X Games or something.
Yeah.
Like an X Games version of the PlayStation.
PS5 Pro X Plus limited edition.
Pass.
It's just going to pass.
Stadia. Yeah, so I want to think about, like, Microsoft is like a services company.
Yeah, it's shaping out that way.
Like,
yeah.
they don't, like, historically, they don't make computer hardware. They make Office 365 that companies subscribe to for thousands of dollars every year to then put on whatever machine.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because I remember when Word was just something you had on your computer. Now you have to pay for it. Or like, what really agitates me is Media Player, because you go to like watch something and it's like, you can't watch it on your computer because you don't have Media Player. When did that stop being just something you just had?
I don't know.
That's so agitating. You have a DVD player on it and you can't watch DVDs.
VLC.
I know, but VLC sucks. I'm like, free VLC sucks. At least like maybe it works better on newer stuff. I know my laptop like doesn't function very well. Yeah, but I mean that was before I broke my hinge.
But like I just think that moving forward, I really think that like the way that we're going to see how Microsoft is moving is just to look at Game Pass. Because they're all in on it.
Oh, for sure.
Like that's their service. They're moving towards the service. They don't care where you play. You know. So and Sony's still kind of stuck in the past with like well they don't have very many services. They're just worried about making PS5 hardware because that's what they do. You know, and Microsoft has billions of dollars more than them to just be like, well, we'll take a loss on this console. We don't care. And I just with the Bethesda news and the EA news and all the stuff that they're doing with Game Pass and all like the all access thing, like every week I'm just more and more convinced by Xbox.
It's starting to be that way, but I still think the strategy that they're adopting is making it so that I don't have to have their machine. I can still get the PS5, but Microsoft wins anyway.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
like,
that's
so
the thing.
look,
that's why I was saying it's important that we don't think about the box anymore.
Yeah,
because they're concerned about the service.
Right. So get a PS5 because Microsoft doesn't care. and yeah,
I think the logical conclusion that you could come from what I'm saying, though, is that do you think that Xbox eventually offers Game Pass on PS5?
No. They already said that they weren't going to do that unless they were lying.
It's just they don't care where you play.
Obviously they do because they said they were not going to be bringing it to the Switch or the PS5.
Yeah, but I mean, like they could change their mind in a couple years or whatever.
I mean, they might. I kind of get the feeling from this whole thing that Microsoft is finding a way to do a Sega and not be completely out of the game. Sega was beat out by Sony and Nintendo, and I guess Microsoft was new to the game, but you know, they got crushed. Mm-hmm. And they just kept making games for the other system. Well, Microsoft seems to be doing finding a way to do that, but like still be huge because like Sega's like basically nothing anymore.
Oh yeah, no.
And meanwhile, Microsoft is like, we can be relevant. We can still have all of these services that you know keep us in the forefront. Yeah. You know, in gaming, but they might come out like, who knows in what kind of time frame, but like maybe we don't see a next generation from them. You know.
Well, I think it's a good move because like their first party stuff, even with like the launch, is still non-existent.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting at is I think what they're realizing is they're not going to ever really be there as they're never going to beat Sony in the console war, and I think they're finding a way to win by not being part of the fight. They're like, we're going to rise above the fight.
I don't think that they're saying that we can't beat them. I think that they're just trying to change the terms of what winning the war means.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, we're not going to lose if we play by these terms. So we're going to define the terms.
Right. So now they're saying rather than the big thing being what exclusives do you offer, they're trying to make like the argument that how can exclusives matter compared to this? And then they're offering you this whole thing. It's just like, you know, this place makes the best salad that I've ever had. But it's also like, yeah, but like you could come to the buffet down the road. Look at all the stuff we've got. You know, it's kind of like that where and I don't think that they're going to necessarily like kicking, you know, like throwing the towel with the exclusive. I just think that, you know, Halo got delayed till next year. Like they've bought a bunch of stuff to try to make first party stuff. I just think it's kind of far out. So in the meantime, until we can finally see like if the fruits of their labor turn into good first party stuff, they're offering you still a thing with such ridiculous value that comparatively, maybe eventually they do catch up. Like the dream is that they acquired all these first-party developers. Maybe they do start making games that are just as good as Sony, and they have Game Pass. At that point, how does Sony compete?
Well, I think Sony is starting to get the picture, and that's why they started off this console with the announcement about the PS Plus, and you starting with all of these franchises already. You're going to have God of War, you're going to have Horizon, you're going to have all these games from the PS4. If you have PS Plus and you buy a PS5, you have all of the greats.
Yeah, I think
just to start.
I really think that they need that. They need to expand it and keep it.
Yeah, and they need to make it a Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
PS Pass. Pass.
It's like a PS Plus Pass. PS Plus.
PS Plus.
It's a PS Plus. Well, I think that moving forward, we're going to get away from too much console news unless it's big.
Yeah.
Because and that's why I kind of wanted to put a little capstone on the whole thing. And
so let's close it out. Where are we leaning? Let's take it. We'll start with producer Colin. Colin, which way are you leaning as of right now?
I mean, I'm always going to lean more towards PlayStation just because some of my favorite games are exclusive to PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
So, PlayStation.
Okay. The pricing, the financing thing, does that sway you any kind of way?
I've always gotten both consoles.
Right.
I have Xbox and PlayStation, so I'll probably get an Xbox at some point. But to start off, I still just exclusives for the PlayStation. I'm always going to lean towards because the ones that they have, they're so good.
Evan?
Honestly, with the talk of the unavailability of what they're saying with the digital edition not being really available as much as the fat PS5, I'm honestly leaning towards getting the Series X with the subscription and playing that, especially if Colin gets the PS5. I guess we'll have both. But I was super stoked about the PS5 knowing that it was going to be $100 cheaper than the Series X, but if I can't get my hands on the cheaper version, I think that $500 is a lot to drop at once. I talk a big game, but I don't know if I'd drop that much right away. 4, I was like, okay, I'm comfortable with it, but so to be able to get the Series X with the all the stuff for $35 and get the next gen experience, even though I won't have Demon Souls or whatever, I'm heavily considering it. So right now I'm leaning if a Series X is available with the pass thing, I'll get it. But both of them are so impossible to find right now anyway, so who knows?
Joe? Well, Joe, at this point, the financing option, money's a tough thing for me right now. I mean, as much as I want to say Sony's going to have my support, I can't unless they start offering some kind of financing option. And even then, I have a feeling you're not going to get the same out of it. Mm-hmm. It'll probably still be $35 a month, and you don't get Game Pass and everything else.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
I'm looking at getting an Xbox to start. Not because I would under normal circumstances. If I had the cash, I would go PS5. But as of right now, Microsoft is probably getting my money, and I think that was an amazing play on their part.
Yeah, I really think that the factor for me is the pre-orders, right?
Yeah, and they're talking about you might not get one anyway. You might not be able to get one.
Right. I just don't know. It could be at any given point.
Have we heard anything about Microsoft having trouble fulfilling their pre-orders?
Not
a word.
Trouble, no. But they still, they're still unavailable right now. But all the signs point to them actually being able to fulfill the pre-orders that they have already made. I guess
Pardon.
it just seems like that it's going to be so impossible for me to. It's going to be so impossible for me to probably get one of these for a very long time that if the Xbox Series X just pops up with all access and I can just get it, I'm probably going to get it. And then that doesn't mean that down the line, once PS5 is available or whatever, that I won't get it. But, it becomes much more of an instant purchase whenever it becomes available than the PS5 for me.
I think, but
That's part of why I'm leaning PlayStation, just because I almost never buy the consoles like when they come out. I usually wait like a couple months.
yeah.
at least.
Yeah, and
I mean,
that's what I did with the PS4 this generation too.
yeah, I when we went and got, because producer Colin and I and
I love calling him producer Colin just feels nice.
doesn't it? It just works. So, and our brother John, we all went and got behind the scenes here. We're all brothers through marriage. So, but we got the PS4 together. We split the cost, but that was it had already been out for what, a year by the time we got it. Yeah. So.
This is the first, PS4 was the first console that I got where I had so many of the exclusives, but I couldn't I just didn't have the will to play all of them and play them when they came out and stuff. I feel like I'm really hit by this backlog thing.
Yeah.
And so I want to get into the console at launch this time, because at launch there's not going to be a billion choices like there are right now, for everything. I can just be well, there's Demon Souls and Miles Morales. I'm going to get those and play them,
That's why I lean towards the PS5, wanting to get that, because with that PS Plus thing, I'm going to get all those games that are in my backlog that I have yet to buy, and I'm not going to have to pay for them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to play them in 4K. I mean,
with probably better performance and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's really, for me, it's just going to be, I can go in $35 and have the 4K gaming experience out of the box and have 1,000 games, even if they're not the the exclusives from Sony that I really want. I'm still gonna have a lot of games. I'm gonna get Ori, which is amazing looking. I'm gonna get Oddworld. That was PS5. That was PS5. There are games that are there that I'm sure I have yet to play. I mean, Forza, and I'm having a hard time. But
yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I'm right now currently paralyzed by choice in terms of having all these games that I should play, but not not being able to commit to starting one, and I feel like that'll be reset by the new console generation, where it's here's the new PS5 games. There's 6 of them.
yeah,
but with the Series X, it's not that. I'm still going to be paralyzed by choice because all they have is just a ton of choice. It's kind of one of those things where I can already boot up Game Pass on my PC, and I still can't find a thing to play or a thing to commit to, and that's not going to change with
at least if
with the Series X.
If I get the PS5, Horizon 2, right now.
Yeah, and that's most of the games that I've bought and completed have been PlayStation games like that, where The Last of Us. There was one of the 2 big games that PlayStation put out this year, and it was just yep, and I wanted it, and I waited the whole year, and then I bought it, and I played it through, and it didn't work out that way for Ghost of Tsushima though.
I still want to play it because it seems like it's something that's right up my alley. But I have played a little bit of The Last of Us 2, and I will say a lot of the criticism is unfounded. It's, if you liked The Last of Us and then you played The Last of Us 2 and you say you don't like it for anything to do with the game itself, you are a liar. Yes, go on. Sorry. Because it's the same game. So shut your face.
It is pretty much for sure the same game. Speaking of The Last of Us, if you become a member on Patreon, we have a new poll up talking about when we're basically going to put out a next full-length kind of single-topic video. We've got something up on our Patreon, which you can vote on if you have exclusive patron access on our Patreon page.
Starting at $1, you get voting power.
Yes, correct. So you can choose between us talking about The Last of Us, or we'll do a whole episode on Batman Beyond, or an episode of Trigun, and there was a third one that I'm forgetting right now.
I'm drawing a blank, but the poll is already up, so you can jump on and check it out.
Either way, if you want to hear us go crazy for an hour about any of those topics, The Last of Us, whatever.
I mean, we might do a shorter one. I don't know.
Yeah. Either way.
Yeah, because an hour on Trigun might be pushing it. I don't know. That's a half-hour discussion, I think.
Yeah. But that's all for us today. So remember to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. We would like to hear from you, so comment if you like, and you can email us at nonsensorypod@gmail.com or tweet us at nonsensory1. Also, we stream Tuesdays at 7:30 Eastern, so please come check us out on twitch.tv/nonsensory, and if you can please support us on Patreon, please do so at patreon.com/nonsensorypod. Also, head over to Gaming Access Weekly and give our new friends at GAW your love and support, and as always, peace. We love you.
And be easy.